I guess I'll get started here. I was going to talk about this verse that I was looking at last night because this was interesting to me because, in actuality, Jesus did away with all covenant stuff. And I hadn't ever really looked at it from that angle, but I was looking up, I said, he was all about the not doing the oaths in Matthew 5, he said, swear no oath. And he even said, let's see, I'll just read it. So everybody, again, you've heard it said that by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, and shalt perform unto the Lord thy oaths. Okay? But I say to you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it's God's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king, neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these comes of evil. And I'm like, wow, he's really literally saying there's no covenant and no oath. Because to have a covenant, you have to have an oath. You can't I looked it up. I was like, am I losing my mind, or is there really, you got to have an oath to have a covenant? And it said that's the definition of a covenant, is to have an oath. So I was looking at this and see in Deuteronomy 29:12, it says, thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath. See, it even mentions the oath, which the Lord your God maketh for thee this day. And then in 13 he says, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, and that he may unto thee a God, and he has sworn unto the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that stands here with us today before the Lord our God, also with him that is not here with us this day. So he's talking about future thing, I think, there. And it came to pass, when he hears the words of this curse, that he blessed himself in his heart, saying, I have peace though I walk in the imagination of mine heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. And the Lord will not spare him, but then the anger of the Lord and his jealousy shall smoke against that man. All the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Lord shall blot out his name from under the heaven. Isn't that weird? It's like they have this big oath thing. And there's the word him in that sentence in verse 15, but with that standeth here. The word him is not in there, but they put it in there, they say, to make it sound better, but I think it means the other people standing there, like, I don't think it was singular, but that's neither here nor there. The main thing is that Jesus was not really teaching an oath. And I find it curious because they put it in the New Testament as adjure, and I didn't even know what that meant. I had to go look it up because adjure is not a word that I hear all the time, This is where we left off last night, and that's going to be too tiny for y'all to read probably. But that's Acts 19. We were talking about how Paul created the Jesus thing and set all that up. We'll actually have it recorded in Acts 19, verse 13. And a certain wandering exorcist Jews. And when we think exorcist, we think about the movies, where they're casting out demons and stuff. But a exorcist in that sense was a person that doesn't swears that obtains an oath. It's an oath person. And they took upon them to name over those having the evil spirits the name of Lord Jesus, and saying, we adjure or force you to take an oath by the Jesus whom Paul doth preach. So they were wanting them to denounce the Lord Jesus and take an oath to the Jesus that Paul taught. And maybe this is where Paul got that part about if anybody teach another Jesus than the one we teach, let them be accursed. It's just crazy. And then it goes on and says, and the evil spirit answered him and said, Jesus I know, and Paul I am acquainted with, and ye, who are ye? So this evil spirit is saying that it knew Jesus and the Paul. The Jesus, and I'm like, that's weird that the evil spirit knew him. And I guess they're talking about exorcist also, like in the evil spirit, because they wouldn't have an evil spirit in there. I forgot about that part. And the man in whom was the evil spirit leaped on them, mastered all of them, and overpowered them, and they flew out of the house naked and wounded. I thought that was a weird statement. I don't really know why they were naked, but they were wounded. And this became known to all the residents of Ephesus, both the Jews and the Greeks, and fear fell upon them all. And the name of the Lord Jesus was extolled. Also, many of those who were now believers came, confessing and divulging their practices. Many of the believers came confessing and announcing these transactions or deals is what I got. And when you get on down, it's kind of like you can tell what they're talking about by a transaction. And a number of those who had practiced magic arts brought their books together and burned them in the sight of all, and counted the value of them, and found it came to 50,000 pieces of silver. Now, when I translated that verse, I got a big shock. They were not burning books, they were writing books. It says, but these capable of strange undertakings or practices co-authored the Bibles or books, the Biblios, day by day in front of the fire and in the spirit of all, and they voted on the price to obtain 5 myriad of silver. So the silver they were getting, it comes to 50,000 pieces of silver total, and that's what they were selling these for. They were writing them, they were not burning books. I always wondered about that. How did they get silver if they were burning them? But when I looked at the Greek, I know now. And this is where I did it, and you can see the word up here on the top. Hopefully you can see it. Every translator threw it in and said co-authors. They were writing, and then it said it was a fire like you were sitting by the fire for the light, or a candle light. It was some kind of light that was on fire, coming from a fire source, like an ancient lamp, or oil lamp or something. But this is when you see these things that I do, this is just where I check in every word. I'm going through and looking at the Greek, and then I'm looking to see if everything lines up with what they have. And a lot of times you'll see they'll have stuff in parentheses, or they'll have stuff in light gray, and that means it's not in the original text. They added it trying to make the sentence sound better, or that's what they say. But to me, a lot of times they're distorting what we have there. Let's see. And you can see here, like in Acts 4:12, when Peter's talking, it says, neither is there salvation in any other name, none other by heaven given among men, whereby you must be saved. And he's saying that in verse 10, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who was crucified, whom God raised from the dead, by him doth this man stand here before you whole. So he's giving credit, Peter's giving credit to the Christ one. And like I explained, Jesus said that no man should ever call him the Christ. He rebuked those that did. I'm reviewing this in case there's somebody new in here. And he denied that he was the Christ to Pontius Pilate 6 times in the text. So he made it very clear. And then we have Matthew 24:5, which we've already discussed, where he says that calling him the Christ will be the main deception in the end time. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this video now, because we've got so many people going into this Christ consciousness, New Age junk. It looks like a hodgepodge of Wicca to me. It's got astrology, and some people are even doing tarot cards I've seen, chakra work. It reads like a Wicca 101. If you pick up a Wicca 101 book off Amazon, you see many of the same things they talk about on the lives. But he did warn that calling him the Christ would be the main deception in Matthew 24:5. It does not mean that there's going to be a bunch of mini Christs coming around. The word in that sentence is epi, and epi means to superimpose or lay upon. It's like your epidermis is your outer layer, your skin, when you're studying science in high school and stuff. Well, that's the top layer. It means you're going to lay on the top of his name the word Christ, and that's going to be the deception. Ain't going to be a bunch of mini Christs running around. Let's see. Then we have Paul doing the same thing Peter was doing in Philippians 2:11, and every tongue may confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So they have both of them doing the same stuff, going out with the name that he had just told the apostles no man should ever call him that. Uh-oh. Ooh. I don't know what happened there. Okay, that was just more of the same of my going through. And immediately when I saw this, my mind went to 1 John 2:22, because we hear that all the time, that who is the liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is the Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. Well, it's not translated right. They dropped a major word, an important word, in between the word Jesus and Christ, and it's the word not. It looks like an onk in Greek. It looks like O-U-K if you're looking at. That's not what it is. Actually, I mean, you have to know Greek, but you can see it in the interlinear, and you'll see that it's blank. I don't care what manuscript. If you can find one that's got it not in there, just send it to me, because I couldn't find a single one. But the verse should have read, who is the liar but he that denieth that Jesus is not the Christ? This is the Antichrist. And Antichrist didn't mean what we thought it did either, I don't think, because anti-theos, theos is the word God, means God-like. If you were going to say the vice president of, Greece, it would be anti for the prefix, just like we have vice. It meant vice, deputy, or like. It can mean against in some instances, but it's just too many words that were not read that way. Like in Rome, in Greek, Jehovah's or Yahweh was the main temple god on the main hill, and his son was called Anti-Jehovah's. It's like he had the same name, but he had anti in front. He's like the vice, the second one in command, the deputy. And if you look it up, you'll actually see in the dictionary deputy, vice, and all that. You'll see all those definitions, but they just ignore it. Oh, let's see. But I checked. This is a famous interlinear. This is Green, J. Green's. I mean, everybody uses it that studies Greek, and it's in there. And I'm like, how could this be missed? It's like it wasn't an accident. I checked. There's the word right there. You can see it. Let me see if I can blow it up a hair so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the word for not. And that icy with a line over it is Jesus and Christ, it's like they put a line. See, the XC, that's Christ, and IC with a line over is Jesus. It says Jesus is not the Christ. Um, okay, I checked the Latin, and the Latin has non. Jesus non este Christus. And that means Jesus is not the Christ. Same thing. Now, if the two negatives had fallen together, it'd be just like English where the two negatives would cancel each other out, but they do not fall together. So that a lot of people have come back and said, "Oh, but it's got two negatives, and they should have canceled." No, they would have to be back to back, just like and see, even in this, can y'all see that? I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's an Old Knox translation. See that right there? Jesus is not the Christ. They've even put it in the Knox Bible, the Old Knox Bible. They know. I mean, that's the Latin from the Latin Bible, but I mean, they know it should have read a not in between. I checked all these. See all those? That's what I was telling you about. It looks kind of like an OUK when you're looking for it, and it can be OU like that one right there about a little over halfway down, but most of the time they write it OUK. And it's right smack in between the word Jesus and Christ. Let's see. Now the next thing is another big thing we're going to talk about. And let's see, I got to get that down smaller again. Sorry, I'm not very good with this media thing. The TikTok, it's real hard to operate the visuals because I can't just pull them up on a screen for y'all. I wish I could. I'm having to take my tablet and shoot a picture of my computer monitor to get these for y'all. How do we know that Jesus was not born of a woman but was divine in nature and from heaven? This is a big thing that I think a lot of people miss. About close to 40 times, Jesus tells us he was sent. And it's like, I kept noticing, I'm like, sent. He never once said he was born. Then when he's talking to the disciples, he tells them that of those born of women, none is greater than John the Baptist. And the least in heaven will be greater than John the Baptist. And I thought, that's wild, because that would make Jesus not be as high a status as even John the Baptist. I said, that makes no sense, That couldn't be, because when I first started saying, I thought that he was Mary's son, the real one. But then I didn't realize there was two. It's like, once you realize there's two, you'll see, like in John, you've got a monogene, an only begotten. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. And the word for that is monogene. Well, mono means one, and gene is like your genetic gene. It's like whatever makes your genetic component in Greek. So it's like he had to come from a single gene. And monogene is a unique, one of a kind, has no brothers and sisters, and would be just like from one parent instead of two. Okay, now in the other Gospels, we have a firstborn. A firstborn is totally different. A firstborn has both parents and has brothers and sisters. So when Jesus was telling us this stuff, that's why I think John is an important book. It's like they're trying to do away with it, but I think it tells us so much of the truth of the spiritual nature of Jesus versus like where he was, what he was doing. It tells us a different side of him from the other Gospels. I don't think it's particularly, wrong. I think it was the most correct of all of them, to me, and the most spiritual of all of them. It's like the others are kind of like a recorded history of what happened, but John tells you who he was. that he was the Father, that I and the Father are one, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. You get a more picture of his spiritual meaning. And when you go to the manuscripts, when you say only begotten Son, it doesn't say only begotten Son, it says only begotten Theos in a lot of the Koine Greek. So that means that John literally called him a God in that text. Now we read John 16:28. I came forth from the Father and have come to the world. I leave the world and go unto the Father. He's just talking about coming and going, just like we talk about coming and going. There's nothing about being born in there. There's no, John 16:29, and his disciples even got it. They were like, oh, now you're speaking plainly and not using figurative speech. They understood what he said because he was just point blank saying, I came down, I was here, I'm going to leave, I'm going back to the other world to the Father. And he gave us a clue that we can kind of know the difference in the two Jesuses. It's like, he that cometh from above is above all. He that is of the earth is earthly, and speaks of the earth. He that cometh from heaven is above all. So he made a delineation. And he makes a delineation that we will receive the wrong one when he says, I come in my Father's name. When another comes in his own name, you'll receive him. So he was kind of giving us some heads up, But I bet he's looking down here going, they got all these textbooks. They know how to read the Greek. Why don't they got it? Why don't they understand what I'm saying? I can't even imagine. Let's see. I already quoted that one without even reading off the card. Okay, John 17:8 is important too. For the words which you gave to me, I have given to them, and they received, and truly knew that I came from beside you, and they believed that you sent me. It's like he plainly says what's going on. Now we have other verses, and this is why the two are in John also. You got to really be looking, because we have other verses where he's literally saying he is God. And even that atheist Bart Ehrhart that does all the videos on YouTube, he'll admit that too. He's like, he said, you can't get through John without admitting that he's a God. He said, if you do, then you didn't read it. Let's see. Okay, and he said in verse 25 of John 17, Righteous Father, indeed, the world did not know you, but I knew you, and these have known that you sent me. And I made known to them your name, and will make known that the love at which you loved me may be in them, and I in them. So he's given some pretty strong words, It's like when he says, I came from above 40 times, it's pretty simple. Let's see. These was interesting too. I went looking in the other books to see what they had. I'm going to put this here where you can see maybe better. On Luke 2:43. And we have in English, and when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. Okay, when I looked at that sentence, I'm like, something's wrong there when I started looking at it. Well, one thing I noticed, the one for boy is specifically a slave or servant. It's not really a child, it's a servant. And I'm like, why are they calling him a servant? Then I looked and it said that he did not know Joseph and his mother. I'm like, why would he not know his mother? And his father. I think that there's a lot more to this story than what we have. Um, Trying to think what else. Yeah, because it's like a definite. It's the same word that he did not know Joseph and the mother, his mother. I'm like, why did they leave that off? Why did they take that out? I mean, they didn't even put the not in there, I don't think. Knew not of it is what they put, but of it is not even in the sentence in Greek. It's like they completely, when you go look at the numbers and make sure there's actual a number behind the English, because a lot of times they just add something in there. And in this sentence, they have added of it at the end. His mother knew not of it, instead of he did not know Joseph and his mother. And that's what it says. He didn't know them. And that's where I just double checked. I went and double checked it. Because I'll do that. I'll throw it in the translator. And all kinds of stuff. Because even when I threw it into Bing Translate, it says not knowing Joseph and his mother. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there. And we'll kind of go see if anybody's got any questions on all this stuff we've